gradually, as there was better understanding of transplantation and better medications available, transplantation became more acceptable to do. And we did the very first transplant in Belfast then in November 1968, so almost 50 years ago, and we've been doing them ever since in terms of that. Mary McGeown was the pioneer really in terms of that, and actually had a rather pioneering approach to transplantation, which meant that the outcomes of transplantation in Belfast were far better than anywhere else in the world, actually. So the outcomes of the first 100 transplants were published in one of the leading journals in 1977, and nobody really believed them because they were so good. They were substantially better than anywhere else. And part of it was her approach to transplantation and her approach to the patients. There was meticulous attention to detail, and what she always focused on was looking after the patient first, and then the transplant after that. Whereas in other centres, you had to save the transplant at all costs, and often there was a high mortality related to that. So transplantation in Belfast was really very, very successful indeed. It was done in a little prefab building down at the bottom end of the city hospital, in a little building called Renal 1, which was meant to be temporary. It was opened in 1968, and actually it stayed as the main place where they did transplants until they moved to the City Hospital Level 11 in the Tower Block in 1986. So part of the history of the City Hospital Tower Block is how long it took from planning to actually come into being. So the temporary building was there and used for a very, very long time. They did dialysis there as well as the transplants, and they built another prefab building called Renal 2, and it stayed as the mainstay of chronic dialysis treatment up until 1998 when they opened the purpose-built dialysis unit just outside the back of the City Hospital. The live donor transplant programme now is numerically the biggest in the UK, despite the fact we don't serve a big population, and actually relative to the size of the population in Northern Ireland, is the biggest live donor programme in Europe, and quite possibly further afield. So last year we had 73 people who came up and gave a kidney to someone else, and were able to make a huge difference on transformation.